I think taxing the wealthy, taxing people at the higher end of the economic spectrum is not the right way to go.
I think what's happening is, if we're not very careful, is that big businesses have a parasitic relationship with the state. Uber's net contribution was £500 per year. That's it. That is wrong.
I think I never got into business to rack up numbers, to win awards or to do anything like that. I think what you earn is private, and it's not something to go shouting around, because every job, every career is different. What I do is no more important than somebody else who could be earning far less than me. It's to the individual, and I think the important thing is you have a world where you are free to achieve whatever ambition you have, and that doesn't have to be tied to money.
Well, I was always led to believe that markets worked best when they were transparent, when everybody had the same information. What Uber drivers in particular suffer from is an information arbitrage, where the operator, the platform knows what's going on, but you necessarily do not. You're atomized, you're by yourself, and you don't know what other colleagues are making, so you don't know what's good and what's not so good.
I think taxing the wealthy, taxing people at the higher end of the economic spectrum is not the right way to go. Probably sends the wrong message. I think, what do we want to do? We want to create this ecosystem, this environment where business can prosper, everybody can prosper. And if you put punitive tax measures in, it doesn't work out. We could let you spend it, we could let you do, the trickle down, you spend it on something and they'll spend it on something, and it filters out throughout the economy. But no, the government think, oh, we know best. And what's they going to do? They waste it. Let's have a war in Iraq. Let's have a war in Afghanistan. Let's have an IT system in the NHS which costs billions of pounds, and let's abandon it. The waste is incredible.
Well, you seem to have this idea that that what taxation is the government saying, put your hands up, give us your money, we're having it. Actually, I think it's the other way around. I think what's happening is, if we're not very careful, is that big businesses have a parasitic relationship with the state. Dealing with Uber, if it is the boss, it owes the Treasury £1 billion in VAT. And what's our government done? They've allowed them to operate since 2012 without paying VAT, without paying income tax, without paying national insurance. It's using our roads, 40,000 vehicles for its first 5 years in London, and Uber's net contribution was £500 per year. That's it. That is wrong. So I have to come down on this, that I strongly disagree. I see people working incredibly hard, 90, 100 hours a week, working themselves into an early grave, and the success does not come with that. And something that maybe we both can agree upon, that if success was a 100-metre dash, you and I probably start at the 25 to 50-metre line. We already start with advantages that many other people don't have. For example, you went to university.
I was one of the few, actually. I didn't end up going to university. While everybody else was having a great time, I worked my socks off. I literally didn't do anything but work. I worked harder than anybody I know, and thank God it's worked, because I'd be pretty sad if it hadn't. We've honed in on the key area, and that's people on the lower incomes, people that are most vulnerable. I think the minimum wage is a good thing. I think the way it's increased in recent years is a good thing. In my view, I want to be a low tax, relatively low regulation, but high wage economy. But that's regulation in the right areas. And I think good regulation tends to be regulation you don't notice, but protecting those at the bottom, those who are most vulnerable, I am completely on board with.
Well, I'm glad you appreciate the increase in the minimum wage we've had over the past few years, but The problem is, and you hint at it here, that you don't want too much harsh enforcement. In fact, we've had no enforcement at all. And so what we have is we have some great laws, but we have no enforcement of them. And so minimum wage workers are expected to spend years in court trying to get that enforced. And that type of a solution is no solution at all.
You know, on your average typical Uber driver, how much does it vary?
So we know in New York City where pay fell by something like 30% between 2014 and 2017. This is the nature of the gig economy, the platform economy. It's oversupply, it's higher wages, flood the network, build the network. When you've got the network monopoly power, reel it back in.
Can I remain neutral? Because it's a balance. It can't buy happiness. I mean, the notion that it can buy happiness is bonkers, but it does, and it can, and it make life more exciting. And you know, you're only on the planet for a certain amount of time, so I desperately want to achieve and, you know, have the ability and at least the option to do as many things as I'd like. So that's where I'm sort of sitting on the fence, I suppose.
Well, I broadly agree with you about that. Money cannot buy happiness, but the absence of money definitely buys you unhappiness and trouble and problems and social difficulties.
I think you know, we've been very fortunate. The business that I run has done well, and that's given immense opportunity to help others. I can think of all manner of things we've done, whether it's charity work or helping individual employees.
You come at this from the perspective that you can do good by doing well.
Yes.
And to some extent that's true. Our model of helping people is one where we have to do good even if we don't do well. And it's a different motivation. I'm not saying it's any more saintly. The payoffs are a little bit different.
But doesn't that, so there's the nice element to this. People are good people, you know, and that is the consensus which can bind people together. It's a willingness to do better, to help people. It's been a pleasure.
Definitely stay and have a drink with you, assuming you're buying.
Cheers.
Cheers! Oh, yes.
Cheers.
Good night.